Hey everyone, I am here because I was looking at the astrology for next week and got excited. So I wanted to talk about what I'm excited about. So, welcome back to Heal My Cosmos. I'm Jenilee, and I want to talk about Cancer, the sign of Cancer, and the opportunities that are coming our way more and more in the month of June to heal through our Cancer expression. Now, Cancer is a cardinal water sign, and that means that it connects us with our very personal emotional experience. The first emotional experiences we ever had connected to our family of origin. Cancer is ruled by the moon, connecting us to mother archetype energy. So there is a lot of mother wound healing opportunities through Cancer energy. And so next week on June 9th, we have Venus in Cancer, which breaks down to valuing your personal emotional experience, right? So Venus is what we value, and Cancer is our very personal emotional experience. In a conjunction, right, at the same degree point, working directly with the planet Jupiter. Planet Jupiter wants to expand everything it works with. It wants to evolve everything it works with. It wants to bless and bring abundance to everything it works with. It wants to bring what it's working with to a higher perspective. Now, when we have our emotional experience and we are brought into wanting to really value that, working directly with expanding our perspective about our emotional experience, it's a really, really opportune time for us to allow ourselves to have that emotional truth going inward time so that we can rise to a new perspective around it. A lot of the times we can get stuck in circles, right? Especially in water energy, because we're in water, we can kind of swim in circles, right? In Cancer energy, we have to be careful not to get lost in the past, right? Or to get stuck in the past, or the energy of the past, the emotions of the past. We have to be careful not to compare the present, what's happening now, what I'm experiencing now, and how I feel about it. Am I feeling that way about it because that's how I've always felt about such things? Or am I feeling that way about it because it's actually that way, right? So we really have to check in about these things when it comes to Cancer energy. We have to be like, okay, is this historical or is it present? Is this from the past or is this actually happening? Are these feelings just all I know? Are these feelings the only thing that I've ever been comforted by, right? Have these feelings become comfort? Am I comfortable having these types of feelings? And so Jupiter in Cancer is kind of really pushing us to like go into all of that and ask ourselves those questions and to come out the other side to decide, oh yeah, you know what? There's actually a ladder on this pool of water, and I get to climb up that ladder and I get to step onto the surface and I get to look into the pool of emotions that I've been swimming in, and I get to see it from this higher perspective. And so that opportunity on June 9th, I highly recommend we all take, because Jupiter does nothing small, and Jupiter has the capacity to help us really turn a corner. And emotionally, we all need to be turning a corner away from the way that we have clung, right? Because so another Cancer energy is clinging, right? Whatever we have clung to that is no longer true, no longer serving us, no longer real, no longer our lived experience in this moment? And if it is, are we participating in perpetuating that? Are we participating in making the cycle continue? We have to be honest with ourselves about those answers. And so the other planet in Cancer that is also working with another outer planet, right? So we've got Venus in Cancer working directly in conjunction with Jupiter in Cancer. And then we have Mercury in Cancer, right? So Mercury in Cancer is communicating your very personal emotional experience, right? Okay, how can I bring this out? And because it's so feeling based and so, all over the place in that pool of water, communicating that can feel a little bit messy. The communication can come out unclear. But this Mercury in Cancer, this communicating our very personal emotional experience, is squaring on that same day, June 9th, squaring, right? Creating a point of tension with the outer planet, Saturn, in the sign of Aries, right? So Aries is another cardinal sign. It's a cardinal fire sign. And so cardinal signs kind of, want what they want in terms of wanting to initiate something. And Saturn definitely wants what he wants in terms of setting boundaries, in terms of not deviating away from what's priority, what's responsible, right? And so Saturn in Aries is prioritizing self-discipline because Aries represents the self and Saturn represents discipline. So Saturn in Aries is very much trying to get us to rise into this deeper self-discipline in some way. And when it's working with Mercury in Cancer in a square, right? It's basically like Saturn in Aries is like prioritize your self-discipline, and Mercury in Cancer is like communicate your feelings. And so this isn't meshing very well. We do have it happening at the same time as that Venus in Cancer conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. So I really highly recommend and want each of us to lean so deeply into that conjunction, right, between Venus and Jupiter. But we can't discount the fact that there is this square happening on the same day in that same sign of Cancer, right? So there's purpose to the synchronicity of two personal planets in Cancer working with two outer planets, right? And so the outer planets always hold more power, right? They always kind of are more capable of getting their agenda to actually move through. And so if we keep that in mind, right, so that Jupiter and Saturn are the planets that are going to have their way. And so if we know that, right, so Jupiter's known as the benefactor of the zodiac, whereas, Saturn is known as the maleficent of the zodiac. And I don't like putting those labels on those planets. That is more of the traditional way to look at those planets. I want to be clear with Saturn personally that I see him very much as a high angel, a guardian angel that is guiding us through this sort of tough love and boundary setting with ourselves. So just being clear. So what do we do with all of this? We have to be like, okay, personally, this is about my feelings, right? Because the double whammy is both Venus and Mercury in Cancer working with these outer planets. And then Jupiter, is going to go. And Saturn is going to limit, right? So how do we find ourselves in a place of balance within all of that? I do think that we need to open to our own emotional expansion, first and foremost, while also knowing that we have priorities. We have a responsibility to ourselves that is new ever since Saturn went into Aries this year, right? And so we are still getting warmed up with this Saturn and Aries experience. It's still rather new. Whereas with Jupiter and Cancer, we are kind of coming more to the end of that experience because Jupiter will leave Cancer and enter Leo on June 29th. And so there is this finishing up. Jupiter is really wanting to make sure that we've got something. Jupiter is wanting to make sure that we have done our emotional work and we can see more clearly what our emotional experience has been and where it is now, where it needs to stay in order for us to move into the future with more emotional intelligence, right? Jupiter is wanting us to step deep into our emotional intelligence. And so Saturn in Aries, we can't lose sight of what we initiated when Saturn went into Aries this year and what we have to stay consistent with. Because Saturn in Aries needs us to stay consistent in our self-discipline. And we have to prioritize that. Both of these planets need to be prioritized. So how do we do that, right? How do we ensure that June 9th comes and there's both of these experiences happening simultaneously and we are able to satisfy both of these outer planets through our emotional experience? I think it's about creating space for your own inner emotional experience that day or that couple of days, right? Because I don't think it's just one and done for that moment. I think it's like this lead up and then climax and then kind of coming down from it. I usually give aspects like 2 days to fully kind of move through us, depending on what they are. And so I think it's really important to keep in mind that both of these planets have to be satisfied. Both of these planets are so important in our soul journey and where we're going and what we're growing into. And so if we can create space to feel our feelings, Jupiter can do their job, right? And help us see the higher perspective. And Saturn can do his job and make sure that we are not getting lost in the pool of emotions so that we can stick to the plan and be responsible with what we committed to within ourselves, right? Because Aries, it is about the self, right? It is about what we need. It is about what we are. It's our self-identity, right? So what part of you is aspiring and what part of you are you trying to step into that you can meet that day and show up for, right? Saturn is about showing up. It's about accountability. It's about clocking in, clocking out, right? And so how can we clock in to what we promised ourselves? This isn't about anybody else, right? This is about, okay, yes, I feel this way. I need to, make sure that I tend to these feelings. And what did I promise myself? Oh, okay, I promised myself I wasn't going to get lost in old stories and old feelings. I wasn't going to be available for people that don't value me and don't see me and don't honor what I need. And so I think it's about seeing yourself in the middle of all that, because this is so much about you. It's so much about the self, because both Cancer and Aries are about the self. One is about feelings, one is about self-identity. And so both of these experiences, only you really know what they are. You can't really ask anybody else what they are because they're very personal experiences. And so on your calendar on June 9th, be sure to remind yourself to create space for your emotions while also creating space for your own self-discipline, remembering whatever seeds you have planted that maybe only you know about for this year, and making sure that you honor whatever that is, whatever you need to do to water those seeds, to tend to those plants, to make sure that you're doing what you told Saturn you would do. That relates back to your own personal self-discipline. So that's what I have to say about all of that. I'm actually really excited for this transit because I think it's warming us up for the upcoming Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer. Yes, the same sign I've just been talking about. It starts on June 29th, the same day that Jupiter will leave Cancer and go into the sign of Leo, which is a whole different conversation that I would love to cover very soon with you all. And so use June 9th to set yourself up for success for Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Because at that point, there's just going to be a big review process, right? For a solid month around our feelings, right? Around, oh, okay, so yeah, I came to this higher perspective with Jupiter. I've set these boundaries with Saturn. I had that square experience. I know that I can't get lost in the pool of emotion. And yet, here's how it isn't perfect yet. And here's what I still need to consider and look at and feel out and just be with, right? And so, yeah, keeping that in mind, that we are in this preparation with this moon ruled sign of Cancer. So I hope that you got something from this. I hope that you set your own reminders in your phone so that you don't forget about this opportunity to step further into your emotional intelligence and prepare for the upcoming retrograde. And I look forward to talking to you all soon. Before we know it, we're going to be at the next new moon in Gemini, so stay tuned for that. And if you're wanting more of my healing content and my live energy healing videos, be sure to upgrade your subscription to a paid subscription. Okay, thank you so much. Be sure to share this video with anyone you feel would benefit, and I will see you soon.